Yo, 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 NFT Paris, what is going on? How are we doing? How are we doing? How are we doing? Good to see you all. I'm Thread Guy, and I'm here to introduce a very special panel today. We're going to hear from some incredible speakers really quickly. The music's kind of loud, but look, this is going to be my first panel that I get to listen to during this conference. Are we excited to hear from some incredible speakers? Can I get a round of applause? Let's go, let's go, let's go. Ah, come on, come on. That shit was weak. That shit was weak. I'm gonna ask one more time. Are we ready? Can I get a round of applause for some incredible speakers here today? Look, look, look. This is the path to mainstream. We're gonna be moderated by Demi, and we're gonna hear from 4 incredible speakers. We got Julian, Francesco, Steffi, and James. If you all are ready, I'm gonna bring them on right now. Final time. Give them one more round of applause. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Welcome to the stage.
I'm living in that 21st century, doing something mean to it. Do it better than anybody you ever seen. Do it. Screams from the haters, got a nice ring to it. I guess.
Hello, hello. Welcome to NFT Paris. My name is Demi Karanicolau. I'm a fashion editor, consultant, I'm a businesswoman, and I'm here to moderate the panel of mainstream to digital fashion, or rather digital fashion to mainstream. I'm also here to welcome James Joseph, Steffi Fang, Julian from DressX, and my good friend Francesca Rosella from Cute Circuit. Guys, we're so happy to have you. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. Hi, I'm James Joseph. I founded Cyber Magazine, which is a phygital media publication where we integrate augmented reality into our media. We just launched an issue with Julia Fox, and previously to that, we launched the Grimes AI work, and I'm happy to be here. Thank you so much.
Hi guys, I'm Steffi Fung. I'm a digital fashion artist, and I have been, I suppose, building my digital fashion brand for the past 4 years. I'm also an educator and content creator, and I work with NFTs, digitals as of recently, and AR filters as such.
Hi everybody, I'm Julian with DressX, Head of Growth and Web3 Lead. My background is both technology and fashion. And at DressX, we've built an ecosystem of tools to enable brands, but also creators, such as Steffi, to bring their collection and their fashion across all of the multiple verses, from video games to Web3 platforms, AI dressing technologies, virtual try-ons. I invite you to go try, actually, one of our technology at the Sandbox booth there. And yeah, our vision is to establish a meta closet where it's a one-stop platform where all of your digital wearables are accessible and resellable at the same time.
And hello, everyone. I'm Francesca Rosella, and I'm co-founder and chief creative director at Cute Circuit. And Cute Circuit is the world's first wearable technology fashion brand. We started about 20 years ago. We are going to celebrate 20 years in April this year. And we've been doing magical, interactive wearable technology to connect people. And I think you'll see more of it as we talk during the panel. Thank you.
Amazing. Thank you, guys. And very briefly about me, I write for Harper's Bazaar. I manage luxury fashion partnerships at the Amazon Group, consult companies one-on-one, and many other things, such as this. So very happy to have you all, and welcome to everyone. This panel is focusing on how we can bring digital fashion to mainstream, and if we need to do that as well. So I'd like to kick things off by asking, there are so many things that have been told about digital fashion, but being in this industry, we also know that mainstream fashion as it is, physical fashion, is already using digital technologies, right? From things like social media all the way to product creation, ideation, as well as designing. Things like Cloth 3D, for example, are used by everyone. So my question is, how do you guys define digital fashion? Do you think that it's a separate thing that needs to be, to be going mainstream? Or is it actually part of what we already call fashion?
You want to start?
James, go first.
Go first.
I think this is a juxtaposition, really. I mean, digital fashion overall should be obviously included within fashion. Personally, I'm not a huge fan of digital fashion weeks. I think that it should be included within our normal fashion weeks, and it will do. That's what's going to happen. It's going to be integrated. I mean, obviously, we're already seeing it from Psyche with their partnership with the British Fashion Council, and that's that first thing from overall. But as a technology, I do think it is a separate thing. Like, obviously, fashion technologies have been around for decades. Digital fashion is a new medium, and that medium shouldn't get confused with fashion technology. They are two separate things, and somebody like Alexander McQueen, who has an in-house tech team that work on a bunch of things, that's not a digital fashion team. It's not a designer like Steffi. So yeah, it's kind of a juxtaposition of the two, but definitely it will just integrate into fashion, of course.
Agreed.
Can I jump on?
Yeah.
I think if you think about fashion, at the end of the day, it's about expressing yourself, whether it's your culture, your identity, and your confidence. When we choose clothes to wear, we are essentially expressing who we are. And digital fashion is exactly that, but expressing it in digital means. And there's so many ways you can express it digitally, whether it's using augmented reality, whether it's using it wearing skins in a metaverse. So I think it's very exciting because as this space develops, there's going to be more and more ways we can express ourselves.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I tend to agree with both of them, of course, that we should not separate digital and physical fashion, but just call it fashion and merge those two experiences into one industry. And you mentioned something about identity. We just had a very interesting observation right now. We had Marina Ferrari, the State Secretary, visiting the booth here at Sandbox, and she saw the video game Avatar wearable skins, and then she tried them on in augmented reality at the same time, and her comment was that, oh, so that players can actually wear in real life what they wear in video games, and this is where you actually understand that your identity goes beyond your physical or your digital self. Your identity is across verses, across multiple verses, and this is where the adoption will enable us to call digital fashion mainstream, which is the subject of this talk. Because what is mainstream? Mainstream is defined as something that is so largely adopted that is considered as normal. And some aspects of digital fashion are yet not accepted as normal, but some are, like video games, skins, like avatars, social media filters. All of these platforms have been considered as normal for many users for decades. They have billions of users. So this could be considered as mainstream. So I think we're not only on the path to mainstream, we're already there in certain categories of our industry. So yes, that's my vision on it.
I think we know each other all well enough to more or less all agree on everything. But I think the thing that we're all trying to do is bridging this gap between what is virtual and what is real. Because we were just discussing backstage, there are things that look amazing when you see them in a virtual world, and you fall in love with what these clothes look like and what they make you feel when you wear them. And you want to have the same emotional attachment and that same feeling in your real life, in your everyday. And so basically, by using new tools and new technologies to create garments, we can envision all the possible futures. And then we increase the complexity of our job as designers in trying to make these very complex futures usable right away. And that's why then we have to come up with technologies that are wearable, then maybe have some like microelectronics built in to do that magical visual effect that only existed in the virtual world. And so basically we're here just to bridge the gap between real and virtual and also make everyday life more magic.
Yeah, 100%, Francesca. I'd actually like to start with you. I have a specific question, because you are an icon when it comes to fashion. I mean, Cute Circuit started using digital technologies, like optic fibers, for example, in physical clothing decades ago at this point, right? And you guys achieved things like dressing Katy Perry for the Met Gala, so we're really talking about something very special. I know that lately, in the last years, you're really focusing on AI fashion as well. So you're really going into digital fashion and using digital technologies to even produce physical garments, because you're obviously doing both. Cute Circuit is a physical fashion brand. So my question is, how do you think that physical fashion can enable whatever it is that we call digital fashion to go mainstream and then be adopted by essentially everyone?
Okay. Yeah, this is really the difficult question that we are trying to solve. Is basically like envisioning everything that we create and how to make it real. But as we were saying, like we've seen all these technologies sort of become mainstream over the past 20 years. And if you think like about, besides dressing Katy Perry, we did a collaboration with Chanel. And I mean, we had been doing this type of garment for about 13 years at that point. And then after 13 years, we did this major collaboration with Chanel, and it was sold out within 2 weeks. And so it's like, you know, it makes me think like when there is like a big music award, and someone receives an award and say, the new rising star, like new rising pop star. And all of a sudden it's like, yeah, but it took me 20 years to get there. So I think it's like sometimes the fashion industry is a bit slow in adopting new technologies, both on the design side, but also on the perceptual, business side, and like what is your product? Because sometimes fashion brands want to continue selling the same product to the same customers. But I think that customers are also changing, because all the people that are here today that are more interested in digital fashion and NFTs and blockchain, we are thinking about digital value within the garments. That is not just what the garment looks like, but also what it does for you. And I think that we are changing as consumers of fashion and as wearers. And I think that brands are starting to realize that. So it takes a while to bring this complexity down to something that is everyday mainstream. But I think we're all working together to make that happen.
Yeah, very interesting. Steffi, I'm going to come to you now, because you're also a designer, obviously, very well known as a digital-first designer. So almost the flip side to, Francesca. You started primarily with digital fashion, and then you also moved to physical fashion. One of your pieces, of course, you're wearing now. How do you think that digital fashion has its own, let's say, complexities, but also are there any new possibilities for fashion through it, and how do you foresee it going mainstream?
There's many things, but yes, you're right. I'm actually wearing one of my physical pieces, which is, I always start in my brand digital first, physical second. And so this piece started off, it's a digital fashion collection. We've actually launched it today with Psyche today. Louise, wherever you are, thank you for helping to produce this piece with Digital Twin. And so I come from a non-fashion background. I come from actually a graphic design background, and I've been learning about fashion ever since I've dived into digital fashion. There are definitely some difficulties moving between digital fashion to physical fashion that I just never thought about before. But the first one would be, if you are making, let's say, a t-shirt and there's a logo right in the center, that's super easy. In digital, physical. But the problem is when you've got more intricate designs like this, it becomes a lot harder, a lot more costlier. And also, what you want in digital, maybe you want, I don't know, flying flames everywhere. You want the texture to be animated. How are you going to bring that into physical? So when we are designing for a phygital collection, these are all considerations you need to think of. Because with digital, you can create anything. You can create all of these magical worlds. So what I've learned is that with my physical designs, I need to pull back sometimes, because it's not as easy as just making a hoodie and just having a logo in the middle. That's not what my brand is about. It's a lot more intricate than that. And what I also find is if the physical piece is not the same as the digital piece, it loses its magic, and people don't really connect with that. So it's very important that they need to be the same.
Something that actually comes to mind now is, obviously working in the industry, we know how important brand identity is and having a consistent voice, even across categories, products. You see the huge fashion maisons, like an example, Dior, they have the same voice, the same image, whether it is in their sunglasses or they're ready to wear, right? So I really understand what you're trying to say, because if you're doing something extraordinary, like a dress made out of flames in virtual fashion, how do you then translate that in a physical product and even in different categories in real life? So it can definitely be, challenging, but at the same time, there are things again, like the dress made out of flames, that could never or hardly ever happen in real life, right? So virtual fashion really gives us new possibilities to discover how can we define fashion once again. James, I'm going to come to you now. Obviously, you're a media mogul. Cyber is a huge magazine in the space. And I can really see how AI would be a topic of interest for you and virtual fashion as well. Would you say that potentially AI can help in editorial work? Things like, virtual fashion dresses can be put very easily on somebody on the cover, right? So is that something that can perhaps help break digital fashion into the mainstream?
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously a very rapidly evolving area, and the biggest impact that we're all going to experience over the next 6 months, let alone the next 5 years. But yeah, I mean, we already do quite a lot of it. Interestingly, we're launching a sister publication next month, which is our kind of social responsibility side, which is called Our Way, which is AI Will End Humanity. And the idea of this zine is to create an entire magazine with AI, even replacing my job. So not like, oh, the articles are written by AI or the images are, but the layout, the art direction, what goes in the magazine, like everything is going to be done by AI. But it's a point to try and show how scary the situation currently is. It is a kind of point that way. On the juxtaposition of that, we've done work already in issues where we've collaborated with DressX, where we created a dress for one of our cover artists, Isabel Baumecki, who's incredible. And DressX created an AI dress. You could try it on from the magazine, which was really cool. Enjoyed that. And we also have done a lot of stuff with Psyche, where we've created digital fashion, where we shoot physical shoots without clothes and then put digital fashion into it. But it is an interesting time with the AI situation right now, because while it's moving quickly and it's great for us and it's really easy for us to create faster and better, there is also quite a lot of legal licensing questions that have arisen. And I don't think people quite understand at the moment how difficult that is. I mean, I've worked in media for 20 years nearly, and I have a lot of experience with this, and have even been sued from occasion for this kind of thing. And it means that I've learnt a lot. And in UK or in France, there is no fair use image policy. So if you use an image and then you change it or whatever, you've got a problem there, and it's retrospective as well, so it can go back as well. And then obviously, what's really interesting to us right now is we're doing some tests on some fashion imagery, and we're using prompts like Stephen Klein or Stephen Mazel or Herb Ritz, and obviously it's coming back with incredible work, but it's their work. Like Mario Testino spent 20 years creating a signature style, and then suddenly we can create that signature style with no repay to him. So it's a very interesting, dynamic situation. I think what's going to happen is we'll just be waiting to see how that evolves, whether regulation will come in or how that will evolve in the future. But it's an interesting time, and I think additionally, these digital fashion AI tools now, which are really exciting, where you can obviously just change an outfit on someone on a photo straight away, which does away with the whole problem that digital fashion had on photos before, where someone actually had to tailor it onto a photo, which was obviously not cost effective. But what's interesting there is it could even not replace digital fashion designers, but they're under threat, and they only existed 2 years ago. It's moving that quickly that, Steffi, came into popularization maybe 3-4 years ago, and already now there's tools out there where I can create digital fashion in an outfit. So I think, to me, culture and creativity are the key going forwards. AI can't replace that. And someone like Steffi, who has her heritage and her culture and then uses that in her creativity, and that is the key, really, and how we'll move forwards.
I couldn't agree more, actually. I've recently written a piece for Harper's Bazaar about essentially AI and if it's going to kill creativity or actually aid it. Francesca was quoted in it. And the conversation that we had was essentially around the fact that, yes, some jobs might cease to exist, or some things might be under threat, right? Even fashion design. But essentially, I feel like, and Francesca kindly agreed, you can use AI to produce a lot of different outcomes, a lot of different examples, and then go in and curate. So not completely let the machine take over and choose, but perhaps, the cover of the magazine, but instead give you a bunch of examples that then you can go in, curate, tweak if needed, And at the end of the day, the human would still have, the most power.
Yeah, and I think I think I might have said last year here that every brand would have its own AI. And then, we're hearing now that brands are creating their own in-house Midjourneys and AI systems because obviously Midjourney doesn't have an IP block, so you can't use that situation commercially because of the IP situation. And there's a big fashion house that I know, which I won't mention because it's private, but they did design a lot of their newest collection through AI, but had to obviously do it with an in-house situation. Otherwise, the IP law becomes a serious problem. So I think every big fashion house within 12 months will have their own integrated in-house AI, even if it's built off Midjourney or Stable Diffusion originally, that doesn't scrape public data, because that's going to be an issue.
Yeah, and I think that another reason for that will be that everybody wants to use things like Midjourney or ChatGPT, but companies can't share their confidential data in that open source, right? So you need to have your own AI in order to even play with this. But Julian, I'm going to pass to you now. Obviously, DressX is very high up there, and when it comes to digital fashion, it's one of the primary companies that everybody's quoting and looking at. You've definitely worked on a lot of beautiful projects. What do you think, or what was your experience working with fashion companies? Or are there any notable examples of them going essentially mainstream?
First of all, thank you so much for the honors. We had the chance to have a lot of use cases with fashion brands, fashion houses, and retailers, with like 400 plus designers and brands onboarded in our ecosystem over the last 3.5 years. And the word mainstream is kind of like a difficult word to use, because in some scenarios, it's a word that you want to implement because we all builder here in the space. We want digital fashion to become mainstream. But when you talk to a luxury fashion house and you use the word mainstream, it's already like a block in the discussion. So I don't think the goal is to go mainstream. The goal is to become a tool that can be easily accessible. And it starts with use cases that are scalable for the brand. So for example, with Tommy Hilfiger, we did NFT drop of items that were co-created with their community, generated with Midjourney AI inside a Discord server, with the code of the brand imposed by the brand in the project. They did 10,000 plus unit minted. So in the world of Web3, 10,000 unit means it's mainstream because it's a lot of units. But on a Web2 model, a few weeks ago, we had Lacoste, French brand, drop. And we brought them to 2 metaverse platforms that are Web2. We brought them to Roblox and Zepeto. And this is probably one of the most mainstream use cases, because the Roblox drop had 15 million visits in the first 5 days. Zepeto, similar numbers. We're talking millions of unique players, gamers, users, consumers, how you want to call them, that interacted with your brand in a few days. So this could be a mainstream use case. And we discussed a lot right now the topic of AI, generative AI, use cases for brands with AI and digital fashion. And I think there's like 2 sides of the coin for this. We have built internally 2 AIs. One that is very consumer-facing, that I've tried with some of the panelists here, that I've tried with friends and community members in our private Discord, which is working on the concept of Midjourney and ChatGPT. It's prompt to fashion, so it's text to fashion. You upload an image of yourself, you prompt new outfit, like, I don't know, Barbie pink inspired suit, and you get fully dressed up with this new outfit ready to share on your socials. Very consumer-facing. On the other side of the coin, with consumers, we have an e-commerce AI dressing technology. So I will not share the name of the brands, but some of the brands that you are consuming on a daily, weekly, or maybe monthly basis have changed their internal processes and the way they populate their e-com. So you, as a consumer, you're still buying the same way you were buying last month or a year ago, but for them, internally, they reduce the lead time from new collection to e-commerce ready content ready to sell, because all of the dressing of their models is made with an AI that replicate the collection in digital, fit them onto the model. Some of the models are actually generated with AI as well, so there's not even a real model in the picture, but you will not make the difference. You actually, some of these brands are mainstream brands. I'm mentioning those use cases. I can't tell their names, but they are totally mainstream brands that everybody probably purchased at least once here, and they will not tell you that anything changed because you're still consuming the same. Their conversion rate is still stable, it's still unchanged, but on the back end, they are now producing content for the e-commerce in hours versus months. Instead of shooting a model, they're creating a model with AI. Instead of like fitting a model with a styling and fitting team, they're digitizing the outfits and fitting the model with AI. And the photo is really to put on the e-com like if it was done from a professional studio shoot in weeks. So it's amount of money saved for the brands. It's no better or worse consumer experience for the user, and also so much faster to get your e-com and your company website ready online for sale. So there's many tools that are used either on the consumer side or on the back-end company side. We're trying to power everybody here in the industry with any tool that can enable digital fashion at a larger scale to one day make it mainstream.
And Julian, one more question, because while you were speaking, I was really thinking about it. You know, the last, I want to say 2 years almost, definitely the last year, have been quite interesting for what we call digital fashion, right? We went from the NFT Web3 craze to the passion for AI, but you know, behind the scenes, all the companies are actually preparing for it. As you mentioned, they have, you know, entire teams that are building, or they already have them, you know, huge groups have them for sure, working on digital innovation. How easy is it for you to speak with these companies? Are they behind the scenes still that excited about digital fashion? Are they preparing for the future? How do you see that from your end?
That's a great question. It depends who we talk to in the brands. You know, sometimes you talk with innovation department, marketing department, tech department, C-suite levels. The conversation could be at any level, depending on also what kind of like industry brand we're working, if it's luxury or mass retail. I would say that 2 years ago, talking with the brand, the narrative was really around put us in Web3, get us there. We want to be an NFT brand too because it's cool and it's hype. Then the narrative turned very quick to AI, and it was like, okay, Web3 is on the low interest level, but you know, like we want to implement AI in any way. And it's because AI and Web3 are being used different ways inside brands. They use Web3 to generate loyalty programs, increase consumer value, generate additional revenue from digital consumer products, and in other side of the industry to also enable and empower creators. On the AI side, they use this literally as an operational tool that can save cost, cut cost. Like AI is used as like, how can we be as productive and operational as we are today with 50% less staff? It's a sad truth, but it's the way brands are working right now. This is the way they approach AI. And we can see that blockchain and Web3 is still an interest now, but on the infrastructure side of things. They are still using Web3 and NFTs on the back end to empower their loyalty programs or certain technologies, you know, like trackability of products, digital identity of products, less on the front side, like buy my digital item.
Yeah, that's well said. I think it's interesting because I think we'll see a massive drop in that kind of marketing activation, digital fashion that we're so used to in those activations. The brands that I talk to at the moment, the big fashion houses, like the people that are staffed in those companies to produce that kind of stuff, they just can't get anything done anymore because, as you say, like there's no ROI to it anymore. And obviously there is a stigma towards it. And as Julian's saying, like it's much more towards AI for cutting costs and then in-house usage. Which I think is a really interesting shift, but it's inevitable, really.
I mean, even the thing we were just discussing Gen AI before, and like these houses and fashion brands that are training their Gen AI internally, they're using this because they can train these AIs with information on the brands and the culture creation and design of the brands from the origin of the brand. You take a luxury fashion house that is like 100 years old, the current DA of the brand, the current director artistic, doesn't know the code of the brand of 90 years ago or 80 years ago. He can read through it, educate himself, but it will not be as performant as an AI that has been trained with the entire suite of SKUs from the brand's origins, right? So they use these AIs as like styling assistant, creative assistant to like agglomerate all of this huge amount of data and split it up in a nice form for them to like be their assistant.
Yeah. It's funny, isn't it? Because I think that the wearable technology boom of like 10 years ago, everyone thought we were going to be dressed in crazy garments, but inevitably it became this, the Apple Watch. Like that's what wearable technology really became. And I think the same thing with like digital fashion, as you say, with the e-com side of it, that's where really 80% of it's going to be. Because like, you know, Nike has to take so many studio days to shoot just the shots for the website, and you know, you see that across like LA, London, and New York. Like they've got 3 studios running full time just to do all that, and they can cut that out. So I think the e-com side of it is really going to be the bread and butter of digital fashion going forwards, right?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Francesca, last thoughts?
Yeah, one of my thoughts was that it's not only about like designing or maintaining an heritage of a brand, but it's also about sustainability, because it's not just about cutting costs during the design process, but also making the final product more sustainable. And I think that that's one of the interesting things that digital technology can do, because you can pre-visualize a whole collection and then decide which garments are really worth making, and also which garments are more interesting for who's going to wear them. And one thing about wearable technology, the reason that everybody ends up like wearing bracelets instead of garments like I do, it's just because it's not widely more diffused. And I think it's something about like, what is the intention of the brands when they create a garment that has somewhat a superpower? And does that correspond to the brand values? And so there are a few brands that are really willing to go there because they know that their fans will want to have that superpower. And some other brands don't need to do it. I think that what is letting people down on all these activations is that they're being done just because there is a buzzword about you need to do a Web3 application, but not every brand needs to do a Web3 activation because it's not in their DNA, and consumers can understand if that's a genuine interest in exploring the future or if it's not genuine. And so I think that what we're trying to do is about creating genuine interest and genuine sustainable futures for the fashion industry.
Absolutely. No, very interesting, Francesca, and I really admire your work. You know that. So it's a very tricky time for digital fashion. It's a tricky time for fashion all over at this moment, right? But fashion has always prevailed, and digital is here to stay. We're only going to be in a world that becomes progressively more digital, not less, right? So I expect that these technologies will actually come to be an integral part of every fashion house, every maison. And they are in a way already, right? Like we're all using digital technology. So I actually prefer to not differentiate digital and physical fashion. They're all fashion in different ways, and they all interact with each other. Now, which part is more popular in a certain period, you know, we're here to see. But yeah, interesting things on the horizon. Thank you everyone for attending. Thank you to our speakers. Very interesting conversation. And yeah, let's see what the future will bring. Thank you.
Thank you, Demi, for hosting.